Tonight, the U.S. government is asking Kenya to commence investigations into multi-million property owned by top South Sudanese elite acquired illegally and invested in the country. In a detailed and shocking account, the U.S. says it is investigating, among others, South Sudanese President Salva Kiir and former Vice President Kiir Machar over allegations touching on money laundering, all said to have vast interests in Kenya. And as KTN's crimes and investigative reporter Francis Ontomwa now reports, the U.S. has pronounced serious consequences to Kenya should she fail to investigate and prosecute the corruption claims.
We will impose consequences. We will cut off your access to the U.S. financial system, and we will work with our partners in this region and elsewhere to do the same.
It is at the Intercontinental Hotel, Nairobi, where the U.S. government will open the lid on shocking accounts touching on the world's newest country, South Sudan. The U.S. has revealed that it has opened investigations into South Sudan's top government officials involved in money laundering. Appallingly, the long list having the current head of state, President Salva Kiir Machar, and his longtime nemesis, former Vice President Kiir Machar. And Kenya has found herself at the center of the storm. Kenyan authorities have been tasked to investigate and seize all illicit acquisitions, failure to which far-reaching consequences could follow.
If Kenya is seen by the international financial community as the regional destination for the proceeds of corruption from South Sudan, it risks serious damage to its image as a safe place for multinational banks and other companies to do business.
It is imperative that you harden your systems and internal controls and keep these actors from abusing your system and continuing to profit through access to the international financial system.
The developments prompted the U.S. Treasury Undersecretary to meet top Kenyan government officials from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, including top bank executives. KTN News' effort to reach foreign affairs officials hit a snag.
It's vital that Kenyan banks and their regulators lead the way in implementing strict standards for anti-money laundering, for anti-corruption action, and for sanctions enforcement to protect the country's financial system from abuse by the violent kleptocrats and the corrupt elites in South Sudan who are pumping their ill-gotten gains into the Kenyan bank accounts and real estate holdings.
The U.S. is keen on President Salva Kiir's massive investment in real estates, part of what has been vastly invested at Kenya's capital, Nairobi. President Salva Kiir and former Vice President Kiir Machar both are said to own palatial homes at the leafy suburb of Lavington.
Since the beginning of 2017, my department, the Treasury Department, has sanctioned over 460 individuals and entities who have a connection to human rights abuses and/or to corruption.
Documents reviewed by the Sentry, an investigating agency that has been following the South Sudan syndicate for over 3 years, purport to describe how funds from South Sudan state oil company, Nile Petroleum Corporation, helped find militias responsible for horrific acts of violence. They also indicate that millions of dollars were paid to several companies, partially owned by family members of top officials responsible for funding government-aligned militia or military commanders. Kenya has lately renewed efforts to help stabilize South Sudan, but these latest revelations could spell doom to the efforts. The civil war that broke out in South Sudan in December 2013 resulted in tens of thousands of deaths and left more than 4 million people displaced internally and externally. One of the key catalysts of South Sudan's civil war has been competition for control over state assets and the country's abundant natural resources. ODM leader Raila Odinga is currently on a mission to end strife in South Sudan after separately holding a meeting with President Salva Kiir and Kiir Machar in a bid to resolve the conflict. Some observers say the shocking details could trigger a diplomatic row between Kenya and South Sudan. Nevertheless, the world will be watching keenly on how Kenya will be approaching the details by the world's superpower. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Nairobi.